Good morning. It is the Operations Subcommittee meeting this morning, April 3rd, 9 to 10 a.m. this morning. And we have subcommittee members, Maureen and Patty, and you are here, and thank you for that. And we can move on to our agenda. And has everybody had a chance to go through the agenda?
Yes.
And do you want to make a motion to approve the agenda? Or do we need a motion?
Yep, we do. Patty, go ahead.
To approve the agenda?
No,
No,
the
the minutes, yes.
I'm sorry, the minutes.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
I did go through them and I moved to approve the minutes, please.
I second it.
All right. And we all agree, so the minutes are approved.
All ayes, yes. Aye, aye,
Aye, yeah, there you go.
aye. Okay, great. So James is here. Can you see him? Hello, James.
Yeah, good morning, James.
Good morning.
Shall we go right to that, Paul, do you think?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. Thank you for joining us and accepting our invitation on a Saturday morning. We're all just groggy and not awake yet, so hope you can forgive us.
Yeah.
My dog's coming up at 7:30 to go out. So
Oh. Well, somebody just arrived at our house and our beagle is screaming and I threw her out. So,
yeah.
so we are so glad to get to see you. One of the big questions we had was the Citizen Salary Commission and how it is that they set elected salaries. And I also wanted to ask why they weren't on the website for so long. Now that the update occurred last week, all the information is on there, but how come there wasn't any information? So just start with whatever question you wish to answer.
Well, let's start with why they weren't on the website. And that was because I didn't know that there was a web page for them.
Oh.
So when I joined the county mid 2016, that was just a piece of information that never got transferred over. And so when they were working on the new one, and they asked me about what do we want on the salary commission page, I said, oh, there's a salary commission page. So that's why it was just an oversight.
Sure. So how is it that they set the elected salaries? And we are hearing from electeds that they're not all in favor of that, but that is the way the structure is set up.
Yeah,
you want to review that with us?
It's, the structure basically follows the same salary commission structure that the Senate, or excuse me, the state uses for the House and Senate members and the other elected officials for the state. But there are not a lot of specific rules about how you come up with the number. I mean, basically it just says is that you have to pay a rate that's commensurate with their duties and responsibilities. Through the years, the Salary Commission has looked at a number of different ways in which to be able to do that. But they're mostly still going by the structure that was established for the first Salary Commission, which I think was initially convened in 2005 after the charter was initially passed but not in place. And they were adopted in 2006. And that was to look at, well, what are other counties paying, establishing criteria for what they use for comparator counties. And then they established, and I couldn't find in their minutes, so I don't know why they picked this number, to pay 5% above the median of those comparator counties. In 2011, the county did a comprehensive wage and classification study that was basically rooted in the Hay point factor system, where you get certain numbers of points for your position based upon these 7 key factors to determine wages for the unelected employees that were also not represented. I think they used it for also for the negotiations for what became the 2012 labor contracts. But in that one of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest point factors is education and experience. And that accounted for, I believe, 27% of the total. But when you look at elected officials, there is no requirement for any kind of education or experience. So the maximum point they could get, even if they got 100% and everything else, would have only been like 73%. So clearly didn't apply to the elected officials.
Huh. So
the 2013 Salary Commission came up with 16 comparator counties. And it's best I can recall, they used that the counties had to be ferry served. They had to have comparable cost of living, comparable cost of labor. They had to be a charter county. Oh, and the sixth one is they had to have comparable positions as an eliminator. So one of the reasons why they don't look at King County is King County doesn't have a treasurer, assessor, or an auditor. They have a chief financial officer who oversees those. So that's why King County isn't included in that group. The most recent one looked at it and they wanted to change that. They've narrowed it down to, I think, 9 comparator counties, but they haven't adopted that yet. So if you saw them, if you watch the Salary Commission that's scheduled for the 22nd, you'll see that there's slides that say, here's what it is with the current 16 counties. Here's what it is if you guys change and go to the 9 counties.
Huh. Wow, that's a complicated process.
Yeah, it is.
When I worked in the council office years ago, Salary Commission had been in place a long, long time. And, they're citizens. These are citizens that are asked to join. And, they had a wide range of skills, those citizens. But yet, one of the things our committee has been talking about is the disparity between the electeds and the appointeds. Appointeds are way, way up there. And for this county, even though I know it's based on comparatives, but it just seems that, I certainly don't blame the electeds for bringing that up, because it does seem unfair. And a lot of our electeds are more than qualified. They would check all the boxes.
Right, but that's, but the reality is it still comes down to is what does it take to get elected?
Right.
I think we are very fortunate here that we have people in positions like John Kulseth, who came out of the assessor's office before he ran, and Rhonda Peterson, who she was in the auditor's office, but had extensive knowledge of Treasury before she ran, and Lisa Peterson, the same thing. But that's somewhat unusual. Like, you don't have to have that. The only position that's elected that actually has any requirement for qualification is the prosecuting attorney. And that's just because the state constitution says the prosecuting attorney has to be eligible to argue before the court, is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this state, that means you have to have passed the bar to be able to be eligible to argue before the court. Right. And you have to then have gotten a law degree. That's not the same in all states. Some states, you don't need to have a law degree to sit and pass the bar. But that's the only position that requires a qualification. And then, as I remember what the charter says is, you don't have to even work as an elected official. It just says you can't leave the county for more than 30 days. So that's why it's imperative that we have strong, solid chief deputies, because they're the ones who we ensure continuity, make sure that irrespective of the qualifications of the elected official, that things run smoothly, that people know how to do the work that needs to be done.
So, like, there's a rite of passage. You've trained for the role, and then it's passed on to them, a deputy.
Well, it's like learning more and moving and getting promoted. Right. It's it's the hard part of understanding, when you look at most people's experiences are in business and you have kind of a hierarchy. The supervisor gets paid more than the subordinate.
Mhm.
That's not always the case. It depends, I found that the higher up I've been in other organizations, I had subordinates who made more than me because of their unique skills. And that's just sometimes the nature of business. But most of the time it's the people that are that are supervising make more than those that they're supervised. Government just isn't that way.
Mm.
And you see that in the state and federal levels also.
James?
Yeah.
My name is Paul Dossett, and I worked in the assessor's office for 28 years. And I was there as an appraiser for 8 years, and then I ran for county assessor and became assessor for 5 terms. And John was the last employee that I hired before I retired at the end of 2006.
Good choice.
Yes, and I have to say that all the predecessors as well. Why I say that, because when I was hired back in 1979 as an appraiser, the chief appraiser of the assessor before that became the county assessor, and he was there until he retired, and then I ran for his position. So the last 4 assessors all came with experience from being in the assessor's office: John, Charles Almanac, myself, and Bill Murphy. There was only one person prior to Bill Murphy who was in there for 1 term. And obviously he didn't know what he was doing, and it relied on the chief appraiser to do the work. However, the job in the assessor's office has increased in terms of complexity because of the state law that you have to do annual updates, which at my time, that wasn't required, which causes a whole host of new knowledge base, as well as the technology to do that job. And I find that looking at the assessor's salary is not even close to what the complexity of that job is and the work. And well, that's about it. We're all very disappointed on the situation. And I have something to pass on to you that might be of interest to you. We have 4 counties within our jurisdictions, just as Skagit, Island County, Jefferson County, and Clallam County all use a system for determining the elected officials' salaries based on a percentage of the Superior Court judge. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, there are several counties that do that.
That's right.
This commission decided to not do that because they felt that essentially was abdicating their role in determining what the salary should be. They basically were saying, well, we're just punting it to the state. Let the state determine what the judges are going to make, and then by just simple math, that'll determine what the other elected officials make. That was the decision that they chose to make.
But I wonder if it's right. I guess that's what it comes down to.
Well, that may be the case, but there's 10 members of the salary commission, 6 that are appointed at large, and 4 that are appointed by profession, and they make those determinations. I don't have a vote in it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're trying to look to a way that we can kind of fix the situation and get those salaries up to those particular elected officials that have that complexity and knowledge base that they'd have to have in order to get the job done.
Well, I think they're working on it now. One of the things if they look at the more closely on how they select their comparator counties, then that I think that will ameliorate some of the issues. I don't know if you did I show you guys or send you the? I told you the 2020 fall slide deck, right?
Yes, you did.
And so the 2021, well, actually in the 2020, you'd see the same type of thing. But if they go to the 9 comparator counties, that dramatically increases their compensation. And so but part of their struggle back in the fall was, okay, so how do we get them there? You know, do we immediately give people a 20% or something like that pay increase, or do we move it up? And they've decided to hold off and consider it at this meeting that's coming up on the 22nd.
I'm sorry.
No, Paul, go ahead.
So
Your meeting.
we're looking at a subcommittee that's determining whether elected officials should be appointed or not. And they're still in deliberation on that point. And even John has said, you know, if it means that I have to be appointed in order to bring my salary up to where it should be, then I'm all for it. And that's kind of a too bad thing, because I have to tell you, running for an election, there is a relationship. It's intangible, but it's there, that the elected people have with the voters of our island, or excuse me, the county. And the 5 times that I ran for county assessor and went all over this county, it was very apparent. And especially the more times I was in the position, they got to know me. And even running for the county CRC, I haven't run an election in 14 years, and I was surprised I even made the commission. People remember and people know. And that is an intangible that is precious, very precious. And you can't obtain through any other manner but through the election process.
Right. You know, and there are pros and cons to that too. Just because people get to know you, I mean, people get to know you when you run, but in
Exactly.
between running and then the next election, they're not involved much. So I don't know. I have a question for you, James. If we as a whole commission voted, because we're a subcommittee and we're just going to make recommendations to the full commission. If we took an elected and turned them into an appointed, would their salary change right away? Or would that be, when would that happen? When would that leap to another salary happen?
Well, if you guys voted that's what you wanted to present to the voters,
Yeah.
and you have to have that out sometime in early summer, I believe.
Yes.
At that point, if I saw that was on there, what I would start to do is to do a comparative analysis of what should the appointed positions then pay for you know, an assessor or an auditor or treasurer or whatever ones you happen to pick, so that by January 1st, which would be the end of the current folks' tenure, I assume that you would say is that they would, you know, even though most of them are not up for re-election until you know, 2022, that you would say is we're going to do it at the end of this year. And that would be effective January 1 with the new changes of the charter, is when I would look to make that effective.
Actually, I think what would happen if they change the role from elected to appointed, I think it would be at the end of that term. I don't think we would change that.
It's however you guys do it. Because when you went from 6 to 3, there were people who were in the middle of their term that ended their term. So you know, so it was just a matter of what you put in there and what the people vote for.
But would your comparison be, would it include years of service? For example, a person's elected and they've been in their office for 10 years, but they have been an employee of the county for 18.
Um,
Well, that would definitely count towards the education and experience criteria. Yeah.
Okay. I see. Okay.
You know, there is a risk to the electeds, and not really much, you know, because I think that they're thought of highly by the council and county manager, but you know, there's no guarantee that they would become the appointed, you know,
true.
position.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, And if I could share, if you're willing, I can share my screen. I can show you the data that we have for the upcoming, for the comparators for the upcoming salary commission. Is that okay with you?
But you said it was the 22nd of April?
Yes,
Okay, great.
starting at noon.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Is that large enough for you, or should I make it bigger?
it's fine.
That's good.
Yep.
So,
Fine.
so you can see this is using the current 16 comparators. And you can see, so the median of those other counties is, for the assessor, auditor, clerk, and treasurer are all pretty close to what we're currently paying now. So they're just slightly below. So for the assessor, it's 95.7% below the median, or excuse me, below the 5% above the median, which is what they've said is their target, 5% above the median. So this is not dramatically different in these positions. The
No.
sheriff currently is considerably, and that's because of a couple of counties made, how medians work. You can have one or two counties make a change and that throws where your median is. And that's what happened. I think I can't remember which county that was.
Is that the reason why the sheriff's start is so much higher? Because you just factored?
Yeah, that's been that way for years, where the comparator counties, the sheriff's wages is more than the others. If I go to the 9 comparator counties, oops, I went past it.
Yeah.
So here's the 9 comparator counties that they're considering. You can see now the 5% above the median is quite a bit higher.
Right.
This is about $8,000 more than what you were seeing in the other one, and show that the comparison to the current salary to the 5% above the median drops to around 19% below. So this is part of what they're considering now. So that's what I'm saying is who you choose to compare with under this structure becomes critical. And as long as you have, bona fide rationale for why you pick your comparators, it's not a bad way to do it, and it's very understandable, both within the compensation structure of the county, but also for the citizens themselves and how we determine what people get paid.
James?
Yes.
So I'm
you
looking at this chart, and I'm thinking to myself, well, the comparables, do they have the same cost of living that we do here in the islands? And I would doubt it very much. I saw one of the salary commission comparables, and they were talking about the cost of living, and they put San Juan County right up there next to King County in terms of the cost of living. And you could actually, when I was assessor, looking at the real estate, everything else that you have to do when you move to these islands, 35% above what you find on the mainland is not out of line for being where we are living. Patty?
Well, one other thing I noticed from both charts was the difference between average and median. And certainly on this one, the average is less than the median. And on the other chart, the average was higher consistently because of the counties that were in it. And I agree that, boy, the cost of living for the county needs to be concerned. And I would wonder which of those 9 counties, as opposed to the 18, do they all? I mean, one of the things was they needed to be ferry served, and they needed, I don't know, it's San Juan County is a bit unique, and I think they should take that into consideration.
Well put.
Well, that was one of the factors that got both the cost of living and the cost of labor were factors that they had looked at. You know, the thing is it's cost of living is also a dynamic number. So in 2011, you know, San Juan County was like 15th out of 39 counties as far as its cost of living. But
Really?
by last year, when we're looking at data, we were second compared to King County determined versus its cost of living. The other thing is cost of living affects people differently. You know, if you bought your home in 1990, you know, on just a regular, you know, 30-year mortgage, you know, your cost of the cost of living doesn't affect you nearly as much as someone who's trying to purchase one now or within, say, the past 5 years. And so it's, you know, it is a factor and it's something to consider, but it shouldn't be the, you know, the only driving factor. Because the other thing is we don't do is if it drops, well, we don't take money away from people.
Yeah, I've never, in the 50 years I've lived up here, it has never dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, have they ever considered capping salaries?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting system.
I just wonder about that average and median difference there, though. I mean, that implies something. Like the group was, I don't know. It just was interesting, and why they picked the median rather than the average. And in this case, that would bring their salaries higher. And then the other one, if they used the average instead of the median, it would have, you know, it would have made their salaries higher.
Yeah, it's that becomes a factor of how you determine median versus average. You know,
Yeah.
median, what that effectively does is takes out your outliers. You know, the ones that are extraordinarily high or extraordinarily low.
Sure.
So,
But like I say, in reviewing the minutes of the early commissions when they first decided to use median, it's not listed. It just says they decided to choose the median. There's nothing that talks about what was the discussion, what was, you know, the pros and cons. Why, you know, it was just. So I couldn't tell you why they decided that versus an average.
how do you change that? How do you change that policy? Because that is not working.
The salary commission can change that policy just through, you know, majority vote during when they meet.
But
So,
if,
go ahead, Patty.
I was going to say, but of course, if they went to the 9 counties rather than the larger group, then you wouldn't want to change it.
Right. So that's why you establish your criteria basically blindfolded, and then you get what you get. You know, and having worked in the corporate world, I know that, you know, I worked with boards of directors for the executive compensation for our CEOs. And they would often ask the CEO, well, give me a list of companies that we should use as comparators. Well, I can tell you in every single case, when I looked at that list and then went to their proxy statements, they only picked people who the CEO was making more than they were.
Right.
And I said, well, you can't do it. You have to establish your criteria that is based on, you know, size of the business, product you're making, those types of things. And then the numbers fall where they are. And that's sort of how they've come up with these. Yes.
Patty?
I'm curious
Okay.
about what are the counties? Can you tell us what the counties are that are in this group and the other group? Ah,
Yeah, bear with me here.
yeah, it's okay.
Gotta be Whatcom.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here.
So this is the 16. It's got Adams, Clallam, Clark, Douglas, Island, Jefferson, Kitsap, Klickitat, Pacific, Ponderay, Pierce, Skagit, Skamania, Snohomish, and Whatcom.
Which of those are comparable?
These are all this is the 16 comparable.
Right,
Oh, they're all comparable.
right.
Yeah,
And what
that's-
are the 9?
So the 9, and what they wanted to do is they actually wanted to double weight some of the other ones. So they've got Clallam, Island County is weighted twice.
Ah,
Jefferson, Kitsap, Pacific, Skagit is weighted twice. Snohomish, Thurston, and Whatcom.
well, they do seem to be more parallel to ours than some of those others.
Yeah, they took the original grouping based upon what those 6 comparators, and then streamlined it to basically say, okay, we don't want anything east of the mountains.
Right.
And we think that, because of the size of the 2, King and Pierce, we don't want to include them. Pierce was the only actually one that was being included because King was excluded. And that's how they came up with this number. And then they said, then we should look at those that are close to us, and
Right.
double weight those. And so that's what they did. So that's because of the double weighting, that could affect your median
Sure.
and average. So
Huh.
Oh.
that's what they recommended at this point.
The
But
four-
it
Go ahead.
hasn't been adopted yet. So it's going to just say.
4 of those counties that are on that list are all part of that schedule thing where they put a percentage of what of the Superior Court judges. 4 of those are plugged into that. So it's not a market driven thing. It's based on whatever the Superior Court judge is paid.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is so half this group is based on that. So, they're actually
Right.
getting that as part of their analysis.
Paul, which
Well,
are the 4? Which are the 4 counties so we can look and see?
We start at the top. You got Clallam and Island, Jefferson, and Skagit.
Huh.
But you can
Snohomish
see
is
the-
way different.
Yeah.
Well,
You can
because
see
they
there-
have, because they take a percentage and each of those counties use a different percentage.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Right. But I mean, Snohomish didn't do that and they came up with 139,000 almost
Same with
on the
Kitsap.
first, on the assessor, for instance. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All of them actually.
But look
Snohomish,
at-
they're straight across.
Yeah, almost all of the counties, the 4 offices, assessor, auditor, clerk, and treasurer, they pay them the same. There are some that don't. Clallam doesn't, but for most of them, it's they're all
Straight across.
yeah.
But look at the sheriff. I mean, look at the wide range of salaries to the sheriff compared to the others. That's a pretty big story there.
Yeah.
I mean, Whatcom is paying a lot for their sheriff. I mean, and it ranges all over the place.
Yeah, wow.
Mhm.
Well, so none of this, they don't plug in the cost of living, which I think is absolutely necessary to make this actually realistic. I don't see.
Especially if you go to King's Market.
Yeah.
When you look at the list, I believe Jefferson is just right behind and almost exactly the same. Not Jefferson, Snohomish, almost exactly the same as San Juan.
And look at there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Skagit, which is really close to us, they're way higher.
Skagit uses 57% of the Superior Court judge salary. And of
Ah.
course, the Superior Court judge salary is determined by the legislature and it changes annually.
Wait.
Hmm.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Can we talk a little bit about the personnel policies?
Sure.
Okay. When I became assessor back in 1987, I was approached by Tom Cowan, who was county commissioner at the time, and he asked me if I would sign on as an elected official to support and actively support the county personnel department. And I was one of four, which it is today. And we signed off that, yes, we will do that. And, but I didn't really understand why I needed to do that because I came up as an employee, then made it to an employer. And I just automatically thought, well, I'm obviously going to be part of the personnel system. Come to find out I wasn't. And, but I don't know the answer why. Can you tell me the answer?
Well, that's, at that point, you guys were still a code county. And so the elected officials could adopt different policies, although there's been several court cases revolving around that because of the difficulty in trying to have a common set of expectations for employees. So in most of the code counties, though, when any changes to the policy manual is made, it goes out to all of the elected officials for their adoption. Under our current charter, the only elected officials that are not addressed as saying that they are subject to the personnel system are the judges. And so I do get separate approval by the judges when I make any updates or changes to the policy. Then when I take it to council, I let the council know that the judges have also approved these changes.
Oh, that's interesting. So, we were trying to initially change the personnel rules to say that electeds were not exempt. And we had learned, later that that's not supported by the state of Washington. And what we are planning on doing is putting language into the charter and into the personnel manual that at least explains that a little bit more, giving a citing of a case in which the Supreme Court of Washington would not allow a board of commissioners to hold judges, a district judge, to the personnel rules. So we plan on putting that forth to the full commission to see if they will all approve it and then pass that to the voters. It seems small, but it seems like an important step in clarifying why that is. It's not a great ruling. I mean, it's just not. I've talked to a lot of people who see the difficulties and challenges of that. If you hire or you elect a terrific person and then they turn out to be a not so terrific person down the road, you have few recourses to deal with that.
Yeah, that has been a struggle where we've had some issues with some elected officials where it's like, I as the head of HR, I can't really hold them accountable because I can't threaten to fire them. I can't threaten to suspend them or withhold any pay or So where we had one, the most we did is, which we could do under the rules of the charter, says, well, we'll take away your budget and have your employees report to someone else.
And you can do that?
We didn't have to do that, but we could have.
You could have. Okay, interesting.
I don't think anyone really had the stomach for it, but that was the only option.
So if that is your only option and you went ahead and did that, who would take over that responsibility?
Would have been dependent upon the council to determine where to assign that group.
So the group.
Well, I just think it would come apart very quickly. Patty?
I'm still a little confused about this. So the elected official I know is not subject to the operations manual, but all of the people who work for that elected official who are county employees, are they also then not subject to the operations manual?
No, they are subject to it.
Okay, good.
So go ahead.
With the exception of those who work for the judge, that's why we have the judges also adopt or accept those so that it applies equally to their employees too.
So James, has that always been the policy?
It's been the policy since I've been here, and it's been in the county charter since 2006.
Back in about 2002 or 3, I had an incident in my office where it was some sexual harassment. And I had it documented. He also took that, the county email system and made some disparaging remarks about the individual. And I was able to obtain those emails as also some witness of what he did actually verbally. And then I took that to the personnel and I was going to, I actually wanted to be able to fire the guy. And I went over to the personnel along with the deputy prosecutor, and they listened to the case, and they kind of shook their head, da, da, da. And I showed them all the evidence. And then it came time to, well, what are we going to do? And it just went silent. It went silent. Nobody made a comment, neither deputy prosecutor. It basically said, okay, you got us all this information, but hands off from doing anything. So
This was somebody who was working for an elected official, or was it an elected?
yeah,
official?
he was working in my office for me.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. It
But
is.
I agree.
it was back at a time when, you know, they didn't shake the tree much back then.
No, yeah, it's true.
I have a question sort of on those lines for you, James. What records are exempt from public disclosure regarding personnel? I noticed that in the personnel manual. What records would be exempt?
Mostly those are medical related records, but would also be some personal identifying information. So we don't publish like social security numbers or things
Right.
like that, unless it comes from a government agency subpoena. But you know, there's very few, but those would be one. Some of the others are like drafts of like a warning notice or something like that would be exempt, but the actual warning notice itself would not be.
May I ask another question, Paul? You okay? with
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I wanted to ask you, the county manager is evaluated by the council.
Yes.
Do employees have any input into that process at all?
That's up to the council to determine if they want to seek input.
Okay. But otherwise, there is no mechanism for collecting concerns or even acknowledgements. I mean, it could go either way. Is there a mechanism for saying, how do the employees evaluate either positively or you have a criticism?
Well, they can always, you know, contact their council member, or they could come to me to make a complaint if they feel that they need one, and I would then handle that. And you know, some people might say, yeah, but he's your boss. What are you going to do about it? Well, the main thing is I'm not afraid of getting fired. So, you know.
Yeah. You're a
So
one-man band, aren't you?
I do the right thing, you know, and I have admonished the county manager many times over things. So it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have said it that way.
Good for
Those
you.
types of things. So
Because what I'm going to continue, if you guys don't mind, just because these are some of the questions that came up on our priority task list, and I think you're the right person to at least give us some input. I don't know that we can do anything with this, and I don't know if other subcommittees are working on it. There's a question regarding evaluating department or employee satisfaction of current chain of command protections from like any executive that might play harsh with them or give them excessive amounts of work, or is there anything that employees have besides just going to you if they have a supervisor that is being excessively hard on them and they're not union, or if they are union, they go to their union?
Yeah, they can go to me, or they can go to the union, or they can go up the chain of command. You know, if unless they're reporting to, you know, the director of the department. And, you know, and we've had that.
Yeah, because it begs the question is that, you know, do people feel comfortable going up the chain of command? Are they afraid of losing their job?
Well, we've never, since I've been here, we've never fired anyone for complaining. You know, so I can't speak to what happened, you know, prior to 2016. You know, because I wouldn't know that. But I think I've tried to establish, at least from my office, that, you know, that we're fair, that we listen. You know, but I'll also be fair with them and tell them, you don't really have a complaint here. You know, I mean, if someone is holding you accountable to a deadline that you both agreed to, and now you don't want to be held accountable to it, you know, that's just business. That's the way things work. You know, you have to live up to what you say you'll do. So I'll tell them both ways if there's an issue, you know. And I've even had the president of the local come to me and with an issue that he was experiencing with a supervisor who's no longer with the county, and we made changes.
So cooperation is something that works well for you in this group. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's great.
James, do we have a closed shop or an open shop for the employees?
The contract shows a closed shop, but with the Janus decision that was passed in 2018 by the Supreme Court, we really can't have a closed shop anymore. So that's language that will change in the contract. It's basically just, you know, it's the same as your appendix. It's just hanging there, but not really doing anything. Yeah, so the employees have a choice of whether they want to join the union or not. You know, we don't treat them any differently, whether they're a union member or not. And I have been in my past, you know, I was a member of the Teamsters for years. So, you know, I think that the first thing that people need to realize is they're our employees who happen to be represented by a union. They're our employees.
Good.
And we treat them that way.
Good.
Because, you know, or we make sure that it's best we can that they're treated that way.
Good. Maureen, do you have any? Go ahead.
I was going to ask what departments are not. I know the county council is a non-union represented. Are the district courts under the union?
Some of them are. So if you're in a management or what's called a confidential position, then you are not represented. So so in the district court, Melissa would be not represented. She's more managerial, but the rest of her staff are represented by the union.
I don't remember ever being asked, do I want to join? I mean, I remember working and it was part of the department. And if I wasn't in the top position, then you had to be union.
Yeah, you actually did have an option, but most people didn't really understand that when they get hired is, you know, you can, prior to the Janus decision in July of 2018, you had to pay dues in some form. You could opt out of the union, but you still had to pay dues as a financial core member. You just weren't technically represented by them. The law says you really have to be anyway. And you could have directed your dues money to go to a specific charity rather than to the union. And that had been an option since the 70s. But most people, when you're getting hired and you're filling out all the paperwork, I don't think they pay that much attention to it, even, you know, because all they know is they're going to have to pay union dues or the equivalent of union dues.
Yeah.
that changed with the Janus decision.
Okay. Okay. Paul?
No, I think I'm finished. Do you have, Patty or Maureen, do you have any further questions?
I do not, but I would like to just say, James, I am so glad you're on board and that you've upgraded this manual. When I worked there, it hadn't been updated back into the early 90s. And you've done a great job in doing that. And your anti-bullying thing is also something that we're going to be able to incorporate into our work. And I think you're doing great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would add, while you guys are looking at language, one of the other groups that's exempt from the policies are the boards and commissions. And I do think that I recognize that most of the policies wouldn't apply to them, but the anti-harassment, anti-discrimination, workplace violence, and bullying policies, I think should apply also to the boards and commissions.
Absolutely.
I've talked to the council because they can adopt rules for boards and commissions to do that. But it would be my preference that it's in the charter, because then it's not subject to a later council deciding they want to revoke that. So at least those four, I don't really think that any of the others would apply, but those four should be applied to the appointed and elected.
Harassment, discrimination, bullying, and violence.
Workplace violence, right.
James, so I assume by making that comment that the boards and some of the commissions are paid by the county?
No.
No?
They're all volunteer.
There are some that they get a stipend. So
Like the salary commission gets something.
they almost never take it, but they.
It's like a jury duty.
But
So
they're
how-
eligible for it, right? Yeah, it's like $15 plus mileage.
I'm trying to grasp how they're bound to the county in order to be submitted to the personnel policies.
Well, they are appointed, or elected. So like the commission that you're on is an
Right,
elected commission,
Uh-huh.
or they're appointed by council. But I think it's important that they understand this, so that there are certain expectations of decorum and how you treat one another. And if there are complaints and we investigate and find that those complaints are founded, that we can ask them to either resign or we can kick them off that board or commission.
So may I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It seems to me that there is no section anywhere that we'd have to make this up and put it in the charter, which is a valuable thing to do and a good exercise. But it has no place in the personnel manual. But there is no code of conduct at all for boards and commissions. I only say that because when I worked in the council, that was my job. I took care of all the boards and commissions, and it was like an octopus, the arms and legs everywhere. So there should be like almost a pamphlet or something in which that is a part of the assignment.
Yes, and you guys should have all, I created a training program that talked about some conduct, that you guys should have all gone through. It was a PowerPoint program.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
That talked about, open public meetings, public records,
Yeah.
Appearance of fairness,
Yeah.
Robertson rules, those types of things. But that was the only ones that I could find that had actually been codified, that there was an ordinance or a resolution towards boards and councils that said, here's how. But it was all structural, not behavioral.
But you brought that in like a couple of years ago, because nothing like that existed prior.
Right.
Okay, so that's something we could use as a baseline.
But
Yes.
one
Do you
of the
think,
things
James,
that James
Go
is saying
ahead,
though
Patty.
is that he's pulling from what is codified, and we need to codify these other things in the charter, or so that he can pull them out too and make a pamphlet or include them in a
Right.
slideshow or a pamphlet or whatever. But they need to be codified, so that's up to us. That's what I'm hearing.
It's either up to you or council to adopt an ordinance that says that
Right.
these types of policies will also apply to boards and commissions.
I think you got a better shot with us there, James. Because we can actually, we can hand them things that we think we not just recommend, we really, as a citizens group, insist that they take action on.
Yeah.
So Maureen, do you think James can help us with the wording of that, or do you want to do it ourselves?
Well, if James is willing, I think we can put together just a paragraph
Yeah.
and submit it to James for tweaking
Mhm.
and recommend it.
Are you willing to do that, James?
I'd be happy to do that, sure.
Great.
Great.
And okay. Do you have from your, it wasn't in that PowerPoint that all the commissions have to take, but did you use the language that you're talking about? Do you have anything on that currently?
I mean, besides what's actually in the policy manual?
Yeah.
No, but
Okay. Okay, but the policy manual's language can also be lifted on this and brought in.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I got it. Wonderful. I'm done.
and those can be referenced probably just by title.
Yeah.
Patty, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Well, James, this has been very fruitful. I'm really, really happy that you were able to meet with us today.
Sure. Well, I'm going to go up and make some eggs and hash browns.
All right.
Well, hungry
well-
too.
Yeah.
And let that dog out.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. This has been great.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
You guys
James.
have a good weekend.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
Oh, great. That was really helpful.
Yes, it was.
Wow, and now we
Okay.
have a new assignment.
Yeah, we do. We just seem to be adding more work to ourselves.
I when we first started the meeting, I was sort of like, oh my God, how many more are we gonna have? Because, when Kevin encouraged us to sort of tie things up, I thought, okay, he's gonna do that. And there is only so much really that the Charter Review Commission is going to be presenting to the voters, I know, and it'll take a while for them to hone that. But it is important to get all of these ideas out there. And I'm sorry, I had a whatever it was about what you sent. Of course, I've read all of those things. And I
know.
think that we're coming down to actually dealing with a lot of them. But that does mean that we have to keep meeting, Maureen and Paul.
I
So
know.
maybe we should reschedule to later in the day on Saturdays.
Or if you want to change days, I don't know about you too, but I have Thursdays that are opening up in the afternoon. Yeah, but I don't know how your schedules are.
I can do Thursdays also.
Late afternoon, I do something on Thursdays and I'm usually done by, 4. Is that too late?
Sort of for me.
Yeah, I was hoping to go earlier, but
What about Tuesday?
I know I've got a 10:30 on Tuesday and I've got a 1 o'clock on Tuesday, but I'm open for other things.
my wife has quite a few
Yeah,
Zooms
yeah.
as well. I just schedule all the way around these.
How I have to go get a hold of Olivia to figure out how to move the meeting because I don't know how to do that. But we could. How about Mondays, or do you have that evening thing on Monday?
I have a 1 o'clock, a 7 o'clock on Monday.
Okay.
I've also got mornings.
Candy,
Yeah, I've got
what are your obligations on Monday afternoon for Zoom? Monday's afternoon.
Zoom, I have a physical therapy at noon.
I'm talking about Zoom.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so. you're
Mondays are
okay.
up. Mondays are open for me in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Patty's
well,
like,
wait a minute. Before we get this date, can we just talk about what we have to do? Because that's so important to me. And then maybe we can come up with a date. We are time limited here. And if we have 3 more meetings, we might be able to nail this. But I'm nervous because I can let go of number 5 and 6 on this because he sort of just answered that,
Yeah.
people have a right to come to them, and
Right.
we're never going to solve the problem of whether there's pressure from supervisors to.
But you have addressed it, and we come up with, okay, there is a way to deal with that. So as a charter review, we don't need to stick it in the charter.
Right, and we don't need to bring this to the full commission to say
Right.
you do something.
Because it's, yeah,
So can we just quickly go past, because there's a motion I was hoping we could make today that would put this number 1 to bed, and I don't have to I mean, I feel like I've been just going crazy on this one.
So just to be clear, Maureen, we're talking about the priority task list updated on March
Right.
31st, 21, and number 1.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Yes. Okay. So
so we have to take out elected.
what?
You have to take out the electeds on that. That's what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about number 1 is the manual stuff.
Right, right.
That just ended with, and if you go to page 2 on this task list, this is the language that came up with, that Amy and I worked on to kind of say, we should take this language, we should vote on it, and we should recommend this to the council. And it is in red, language for Article 8, Section 8.20, and in the personnel, that's in the charter, in the personnel manual, 4.010 exclusions that say, as a matter of law, an elected official is generally answerable only to the voters and to their oath of office. And then you cite the case. And if we put that in that section, those 2 sections, we can at least hopefully believe that the future will not have to go down this rabbit hole again.
So Maureen, can we do that as a motion and
Yes.
act on it?
Yes.
So Patty, would you mind making?
I'm
a
reading
motion?
that going down farther. As a matter of law, an elected official is generally answerable only to the voters and to their oath of office.
That is the finding.
Pardon me?
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? Because I
I'm
was,
talking about the red language.
yeah, I'm looking at all the red
Okay.
language.
The motion has to be as a matter of law. I move that the following wording be included in the charter
Right,
article and then the personnel manual that says, and then those quotes.
right.
And
I'm
then,
trying to find the right one. So is that it? The bottom one? I mean, as a matter of law, an elected official is generally answerable only to the voters and to their oath of office in Crossler
Yes,
versus
yes.
Hill.
yeah,
That's the one you're talking about, right?
yes.
It is.
That's the motion I'm asking for.
Yeah, okay. And that is, and that's there because, I mean, don't we have something ahead of that that sort of explains why we're
Okay,
even
let me
addressing it?
back up. We approved that we would add language to the personnel manual to make electeds not exempt.
Right,
They had to
but
be
we
part.
can take that back
Then we
out.
had to repeal it because it
Yeah.
wasn't allowable. So last week we repealed it. Now we're putting in language that supports why we repealed it so that future charter reviews will not have to review this same material. So what we're trying to do is put this language in, and then what you see under it, under findings, is what I think we give to the
Right,
full commission as a reason.
So Maureen, would you be willing to make the motion then?
Absolutely. I move that we include the language, this language for Article 8 of the Charter, Section 8.2, and in the personnel manual for 4.010 exclusions that says, and I'm not going to read it, that's the motion.
Patty?
I guess it needs to be seconded, but then I have a discussion.
Would you be willing to second it?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
Okay, so I'm still a little confused. Is there something, there's a statement there that says elected officials are exempt and we're putting this after that? Is that where it's going? I mean, is there a statement in the charter that says elected officials are exempt? And then
Yes.
we're putting this after that?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
Okay, if you look
It
at this
makes sense to
above
put
it, it says It would be helpful to amend the language in the charter
Right.
and personnel that explains why the exemption of elected officials exists.
Right, so in the charter, the language in the charter just says, and
They're
elected
exempt.
officials are exempt, is that it?
Yeah, no
Okay.
reason.
Okay, sure.
And the same occurs in the personnel manual. It just says they are exempt and there's no explanation.
Okay, so this goes right after that, so it will tell you why. Okay. Makes sense.
I'm glad you asked that question, Patty, because it does give some continuity to what we're trying to do here. So thank you. Are we ready for the vote?
Ready for the vote?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's passed.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then the findings, and then
Yeah.
this will all be tightened up. Okay. Then the next one is very disturbing to me because this was the public records thing. And I don't think Olivia understood what I was talking about, why this is in here.
Maureen, before you go on, can you cite to where we are so we can. follow
Number
with you?
2 on
Okay, good.
our list. This is
Okay,
number
good.
2. And okay, several people put into this task that they wanted words like prompt and other things so that it would lay out how this. Now there's 2 parts to this. There is public records, which means that my point was that all of the records that we talked about last week should be archived by the county and made available to the public. And the reason there would be no fee is because they would be digital. They would all be done that way. And then we talked about having something after that said, but in the instances where there is a public records request, like emails and that go beyond the regular record, there would still be a person in the county that would have to do that, and that would be charged. You know what I'm saying? There'd be a fee.
Right. So I know Olivia said, hey, take a look at what's available now, which I haven't been able to look in depth, but it may be that your first part to make things promptly and available is being addressed already by the county, and maybe they are doing that. That's all I think Olivia was saying. It looks like they're working on that.
What I'm having such a hard time getting this concept over to everybody. This is not about, the county has updated the website. More things are available and it's easier to find. That was the big thing too. Easier to find things. But I'm talking about the records that go back in time, that go like all of the proceedings of the county council, the planning department records that have all been scanned and not made available. Those are the records that I'm talking about.
So, and there is no way, there's no place in the current website where those are not available to, if there's nothing you can go in and search and archive. Have we tried to do that? I mean, I haven't tried to do it, so I don't know whether it's there.
That's the problem. If it needs to be done. How do I say this?
I mean, maybe it's there. I don't know.
I don't think that all of these records that I'm talking about are there. I will make a check, but I can't keep this one going because I feel like every week I kind of start from the same place.
No, we know that you have done all of this and you know that it's already digital. I don't know whether they're working on actually putting it on the site, and for us to put something in the charter that says you have to, and they're already doing it. I don't know. I mean, we need to see.
They haven't done it in all of these years. I'm not expecting they've upgraded it to that now.
I don't know. They've changed this website, so I don't know what they're doing. Like what he just said. He didn't know that should be out there on the salary commission, and so he put it out. I mean, it looks like they're delving into more things. I don't know. There's only so much that the charter can state. I mean, we give them so many things to vote on, and pretty soon people are saying, why do I even have to worry about this? I know that you've already scanned so much in there, so it's there. Maybe they are trying to make it accessible. I don't know.
But
Hold
the-
on a second here.
Yeah,
Hey, Patty, may I comment on
Sure.
that?
yes.
Get out of here.
I keep saying Maureen has a bad cough, but I'm not sure that's right.
That's her dog.
You know, it's one thing to say, you know, it may have been done or may not have been done. And so what Maureen is trying to do here is put down a policy that, yeah, it will be done, and
Right.
anything in the past as well. So it's important to have this language in the charter, in my opinion.
Okay,
And so last week we changed a couple of words, which I've written, it's in yellow on your
Yep.
page 3 of this.
Mhm.
And I underlined the words that we changed so that everybody could see, and that would still be in there. Olivia thought that the people are not going to support this, or they might have a problem with the lack of fee. But that's why I suggested that we put another piece in there saying other
right.
public records requests will be handled the way the county is. I mean, I can still do that if that's what everybody agrees to.
Well, does anybody have any question about the suggested wording that Maureen has put together? Patty, do you have some comments?
This is what we agreed on last week.
Oh, so it's done?
Right. I
Have we,
think,
have we had a motion to pass it?
well,
No,
No,
we did
so
not
that's,
pass this.
that's right.
what Maureen is saying about the others with the fee needs to be added to it before we pass it. Because there is a person there that's being paid by the county to do stuff that isn't fully accessible. And so we
Yeah.
need to address that side of it. And then, yes, we should do this.
Well, if you make a statement in here that says all information and records for the public accessibility without fee, is that enough to cover?
No, we're talking about the ones that will have a fee. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
guess
think I could, in one sentence, just say that there currently is a process for obtaining additional public records requests with a fee, and that shall remain in operations, or, that shall remain current.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, let's see. Have you run this by Amy, this language by Amy at all?
No,
Okay, because I think we need to talk about the two things that you were talking about, but what we've got in this says that all records, and it doesn't really indicate that there are any others. And then all records will be available without fee. And if that isn't going to be the case, we need to define that. You know what I mean?
well, we'll have to get an opinion on this.
Yeah, I think so. Because if there are things that are not accessible,
Okay, here's my problem, folks. We went through this a lot last week with this language. We went over it and over it, and words were tweaked, and this was changed, and now we're doing it again. And I kind of
Yeah.
I don't want to waste our time kind of.
Yeah, I think for the purpose of what we're doing here is that we're putting out it's our opinion that this is what we'd like to do. Okay, it doesn't have to be, well, the closer the better, of course, I understand that. But if we can pass this as our process, that this is what we'd like to do, this is what we think should be included, and then get that out there, we can run it by Randy or other sources to find out if it's good or not, and take it from there. But I do think we need to kind of take a look at this by now. We've hashed this out a long time.
Yeah.
And I would
And this
propose,
is only number 2 on our list.
well,
yeah,
but we've already eliminated the last two. So we're
So-
really talking about one more.
so,
But this being, I don't know, I still, as it says that all will be there, that we're mandating that everything get on that website without a fee. Maybe we need to identify by when or whatever, because, and what we're talking about, because, if somebody wants email, well, that isn't going to be there, but they can request it. Or if somebody wants, it seems to be all inclusive, and I just don't know how in practicality that will happen.
county email is protected already. There's already policies about that. So I'm not sure that would become public.
Well, no, but you're stating all, okay, so it isn't a public document, but
That's right.
can somebody request it by going into public records and requesting it?
If it's a policy that is not available to the public, then I don't think they can go beyond that.
So what,
See-
I haven't looked at a public records disclosure request. Does it define what you can or not? I mean, I just know if there's somebody, I was a little bit put off by the list that we saw earlier about all the fees that are added, you know, the 15 cents a document copy and things like that. It can end up being quite expensive to request public records, obviously. And then it can take months, obviously, because it has. So I'm for what you're trying to do here. I'm just trying to get it out there without problems attached to it. If somebody's going to say, well, that's impossible, you know, you can't do that, and then throw it away. I don't know. That's why I keep harping on this, because I approve of it. I want it to be there. I just don't know whether it's.
What I will do is I'll take one more run at this, and then I'm not going to run it anymore.
No, Maureen,
Take one
We
line.
appreciate what
Excuse
you've
me, let me
done.
just finish. Let me finish. I'll do one more line that addresses this, the other part. The public records request that they have an employee doing that charges for it. I'll address that. I'm not going to take it to legal for an opinion until we are done. We have agreed that it should go forward. If we vote against it going forward, it dies. But I'm not going to spend any more time in this. This is
No,
driving me crazy.
I hear you.
And I feel like we're just repeating the same.
well, I guess I am of a different opinion. I think it's there in concept, and that's where we should be right now as a subcommittee. If we want to tighten it up later, we can do that.
Or, you know, the commission might throw it out, say we're not going to.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so Paul, you can report that this is what we've done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're not going to report next week. We didn't hear from everybody, and I already sent it in that we're not ready. So
Good.
we have another week. It'll be the following week when operations will be. heard.
So if it's
But
acceptable,
that's still what he
if
will
it's
report.
acceptable to you, can we get a motion on the floor?
Well, I don't know that there's a motion to be made yet. I have to add this other language.
Oh, I
Well,
see. So you're intending to do that.
So
before.
I'll take it on to make, like what I've just said again, another
Okay.
sentence on here, and then we'll take a look at it.
Okay, so we'll put that on next meeting then?
I
Yes,
thought I heard Paul say that, hey, let's not do that. Let's just bring this in front of the committee and then they can deal with it.
Well, obviously that didn't pass muster with both you and Maureen, so I'm willing to back off.
No, I don't
If
want
that's what you
to,
want to do, I'm okay with it.
I don't want to submit something to the full commission that that's going to fail. I want to submit something that has a
So-
chance of getting
Okay.
passed.
Let's do it one more time then, Maureen, and see if we
Okay.
get this straightened out.
Okay, so our number 3 was the ombudsman thing.
Right.
Mhm.
And that is the thing that shouldn't be pronounced. I don't know why, but it should. And we
Yeah.
took a different tact, and we could report that that's what we started thinking about. But now that the county website is better and more user-friendly, maybe we can say, what? What do you want to say about this?
Well, first of all, the ombudsman definition, as I sent to you guys, has a different meaning than what we're
Yes.
trying to use it for. So
Yes.
that in itself can be problematic.
Yes,
We don't need to call it an ombudsman or an
That's-
ombudsman, whatever it is. But that this has brought forward, the way we interpreted it was that people needed help understanding the county. Is that right?
yes,
The way we interpret it. Whereas sometimes an ombudsman is somebody who takes a conflict and deals with it.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so we're not really sure if that's what the tone was when this was suggested or not, because if that was the tone, then we're not addressing that. But in looking at this, we felt that, hey, the county needs help for the general population to figure out what's going on in the county. And then, so we were thinking about volunteers at say the senior center or someplace else that people could go to and say, hey, But like you say, now that the county's website seems to be so better, I haven't really looked around in there. Maybe we don't need this person at all, but if it's conflict resolution, that's something else than what we're talking about.
So do we sense that this is a need that we're addressing?
What I get from this, like I got from a lot of other people's task ideas, was that a lot of people think that the government's not doing something and that we need a person who can not let supervisors bully them, or they have a recourse through an ombudsman to
So
investigate.
that's conflict
whether
resolution.
it's a complaint-oriented thing, and that's what I think is all through. There's a whole bunch of that through the task list, the original task list. We took a different route, and I don't think
So that's not really the
point.
spirit of what people were asking. And I think what the discussion we just had today about HR sort of deals with that, that they do have the ability to go to your supervisor, unless the problem is with your supervisor, and then you have the ability to go to the council member, or, they do have that ability without hiring another person to take it on.
So are we talking about a position that would be assistant at the inside of the county or outside the
Yeah.
county?
Inside.
Okay.
So
Is it-
my take after talking to James, although there's no proof, we can't prove that it works, because we
Right.
don't know that, and an employee is not going to tell us, of course it works, or it doesn't work. I think we can say that at this time, after our discussion with James Wolfe, we do not see an ombudsman as anything that is necessarily needed right now.
I agree.
I agree also. Can we set it aside then?
Yeah.
All right, cross that one off.
What I'll say in the minutes is just that, okay? I'll just make that a note after this discussion, okay?
Good.
Number 4.
Now, the big one is the bullying. So,
Oh, yeah.
this was one of Olivia's things, and she was interested in this, and I just, what do you guys think?
Well, didn't you sort of commented, James, that they have a pretty good anti-bullying policy now in the
Well,
policy?
he has written one that is a draft. That is,
Oh, okay. So it's being worked on, right?
Yeah. he is doing that. And
I
I
don't
sent it
think
around.
this
You
is-
all got copies of it.
I don't think this is something for the Charter Review Commission to have to put in the charter. I think it's an HR thing, and I think it's being addressed.
Okay, wait a minute. I totally disagree. And the reason is we just talked with him about creating a statement about all these 4 things that should go into boards and commissions. And that is something the charter can do. And it
That's
would be
true.
just language. I mean,
That was in respect to the boards and commissions. And yes, we should put that there. As far as, pardon?
so I think the way we should answer this is I will develop a paragraph, one paragraph, and it will be the use of that language from his draft that is applicable to boards and commissions, and we will submit that to the full commission for their consideration.
That would be good. That would be good.
That would be good.
Yep.
All right, so that will be done by next week. We can vote on it and then
Yep.
or change it. And if we want to change it, we'll change it in meeting, and it will be voted on in meeting, and then we'll be done. Okay. And the last 2, I want to kick down the street. I don't even want to deal with them.
We're done. Yeah.
So we might be able to have 1 or 2 more meetings. And
Yep. I think that's possible.
I think that's possible. You guys,
good.
Yay, team.
yay, team.
So does that conclude it?
I think it does.
Okay.
How about you, Patty? You okay? with
Well,
that?
should we decide to meet at another time, or should we just go ahead with the next 2 weeks at 9 o'clock on Saturday, or make it 9:30?
We're down to 3. I mean, it's if we can do one more meeting, let's see what we can squeeze out of one more meeting, and maybe we could be done there.
So keep it at Saturday,
If we drag it a little longer.
keep it a Saturday then?
Saturday.
Is that
And-
okay, Patty?
If it goes to 9:30, can I ask you to start at 9:30 instead of 9? That'll make.
I
all-
don't know how to change it. I'd have to go to, none of this stuff is easy. You got to
Oh,
go to Olivia and have her. I mean, I can do that, but it's another whole step that I have to go through, and I'll be happy to do it. So let me try.
Or we could
Yeah,
just
no,
show
I-
up at 9:30 on the same thing that starts at 9 and it'll still be there.
I don't know whether that works that way. So I
I
will.
think it does, but okay.
Okay, I'll try to get her to schedule. Okay.
Well,
I've been on committees that we didn't start until way later because people couldn't figure out how to get on and whatever.
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
Oh, well, that
So-
would really help it for me.
Okay, so that's a proposal that we meet at 9:30. I guess that doesn't have to be a motion. It is just something that we're considering.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay. Well, then, are we finished with our task today?
I believe so.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay,
And
well,
one last question. Is
Uh-huh.
there anything on our list that is being taken up in another committee that either of you two are on?
no.
I
Well,
was just going to say that as far as getting inclusive language, if that was part of this, which I don't think it is, that's certainly being dealt with in other committees. Yeah, to keep the preamble to the operation or the personnel manual was sort of like, oh, well, that's being done in the preamble committee, but it doesn't hurt to have something like that there in the personnel manual. So anyway, not these things, as far as I know.
all right. Now, are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah, let's adjourn.
So
Thank you.
we are adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Stop
Thank
the
you.
recording.
Recording's off.
Patty?
Come on, recording.
It's not off.
Bye.
It should get off. It will.
Stop recording. Stop.